Mother Nature turned a cold shoulder to kart at Nazareth, now we move to California, where the drivers faced their first tests on the streets. The only street track race in the first third of the season, Long Beach is often a key to the championship. 5 of the last 6 winners went on to claim the title. It's a race which counts highly on each driver's wish list. Dario Franchitti is a master of the temporary circuits. He's won 5 races on street tracks, but has yet to conquer this one. Points leader Max Papis is still riding high from his first victory in Miami and wants to keep the championship lead. It's an important race to win and one of the classics of American motorsports. It's the 26th running of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Hello and welcome everybody. Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw with you. I'm very glad to say we've got much better weather than we had 1 week ago when we were freezing in the snow of Nazareth here in California. The sun is shining and we're expecting a great race this afternoon.
Yeah, what a difference about 60 degrees Fahrenheit makes. Absolutely perfect conditions this afternoon. Not much wind, warm but not too hot, bright blue sky, perfect conditions for motor racing.
Queen Mary overlooking the harbour here at Long Beach. We're about an hour's drive south of central Los Angeles, and we've got a race in prospect with Gil De Ferran on pole position. It's the 3rd time he's taken pole position here at Long Beach, but he's never had the race win. And don't forget, of course, Team Penske, they're still chasing that 100th victory. Here at Long Beach, though, it's all been about target Team Chip Ganassi racing over the last few years. 1996, it went to Jimmy Vasser. 1997, it went to Alex Zanardi. He won again in an amazing race in 1998 from the back, and last year, well, it was the new boy, Juan Montoya, who took it on that occasion.
And even more amazing, on each occasion, target Team Chip Ganassi Racing went on to win the championship.
So a pretty impressive result for the team. I wonder if they can do it again here. A racetrack that has seen so much action over the years. It started with Formula 5000 back in 1975. It was Formula 1 cars after that, and it's been champ cars over the recent years. Let's take a look at how the grid lines up here today. Gil De Ferran then on pole position as he was at Homestead, and Jimmy Vasser, the winner of this race back in 1996. He starts on the front row. Juan Montoya, winner here last year, is joined on the second row by Adrian Fernandez, fastest of the Fords.
Row 3, Bryan Herta making a very strong return to the series, substituting for the injured Shinji Nakano. Alongside him, Max Papis. Behind them, Kenny Breck, Max Papis' teammate, and Roberto Moreno for Patrick Racing.
Helio Castro Neves led the race in 1998 here, and Mimo Gidley standing in for Patrick Carpentier here this weekend. His teammate Alex Tagliani right behind him on row 6, joined by Cristiano Da Matta.
In winter testing, Newman House Racing had the cars to beat the Lola Ford very, very strong. But look at that, Fittipaldi and Andretti on row 7. Behind them, the 2 Mercedes Reynards, Tony Kanaan and Mauricio Gugelmin.
Back on row 9 is Paul Tracy, a former winner of this race, and having his first street course race now, Norberto Fontana lines up alongside him. And look at row 10, the 2 Brits, Dario Franchitti and Mark Blundell. Franchitti crashed in qualifying, Blundell's had a tough time.
21st on the grid, Oriol Servier, last year's Indy Lights champion. Alongside him, Michel Jourdain Jr. On row 12, Dale Coyne Racing, Takura Kurosawa and Walter Salas carrying Panasonic colours this weekend. Along on his own at the back, row 13, Luis Garcia Jr. still in a 99 Reynard.
Now we're looking down over this street track. It has changed slightly this year and it's increased the length. The area to the left of the picture, the shaded areas, you can see it went from a few wiggly bits into a couple of more decent straights, and hopefully overtaking will be a little easier, particularly at that left-hander turn number 6. We've spoken to a few of the drivers about their opinions regarding the changes to the track. Let's hear what they had to say about it.
Well, it's definitely a little bit quicker than last year and has a lot more room to pass, which is it's really nice.
It gives you a little bit more opportunity to get into, dive into some guys and have more opportunity to pass. So it's I think it's going to be more exciting the way the track is right now.
It's more enjoyable. There is more time, give opportunity to overtake easier, and I just feel it's a better layout overall.
I think last year was better. There's a corner, when you come into the pitch, towards the pitch, they moved the wall there and made it very narrow. And there's a big bump there. That's not very positive. I think apart from that, it's better.
It's great. I mean, especially the new lefting turn, which is going up, and the car is like oversteer. It's great. I really like it.
I think it's better. I think the 2 areas that have been changed are clearly, possible passing zones, and that's what you need for better racing.
All in all, I think the track layout is good. They're utilizing all the streets that they can here at this facility, and I think it's a good job.
Well, the track has changed many times over the years, from the times of Formula 5000 and Formula 1. It's gone through all sorts of transformations, but it does generally seem to be a good reaction to the changes that have been made this year.
That's right, and you look at the street course now is 1.968 miles. 82 laps will go this afternoon. Almost 190 miles now on Shoreline Drive, that curving long straight. Fuel range, 28 to 31 laps they can do. I think they would probably start making pit stops as early as lap 23 or so if there was a caution at that particular time. But certainly if there are full course cautions, they will be crucial into determining the pit strategy for these teams.
Yes, and on a street race, of course, we're likely to see some. Let's take a look at the onboard cameras. Mark Blundell, starting down in 20th place, has an onboard camera. Remember, Dario Franchitti is alongside him back on that 10th row of the grid. Those two have a lot of work to do here this afternoon. We're also on board with Mark Blundell's teammate, Maurizio Gugelmin, and Gugelmin with Mercedes power. He lines up in 16th place alongside top Mercedes runner this weekend, Tony Kanaan. So those two together on the 8th row of the grid. And then let's just gradually move our way up the order. We've got pretty good pictures here this weekend. Norberto Fontana, he's back a little bit. In fact, he's down in 18th place. The Argentine driver having his first street course race, running with Della Penna Motorsports.
Yeah, had an off in qualifying. Other than that, he was going very, very well indeed. He really was putting on a very strong showing for that Della Penna Motorsports team. So I think he has got a faster car than 18th on the grid.
Further up, we've got Cristiano Da Matta running in 12th place at the start of this race. He will be starting from 12th place. And the young Brazilian, now in his second season of Champ Car racing, also with Toyota power here. And it's important to note that, of course, this is Toyota's home race in more ways than one. It's nearest to their engine building facility. That's not far away from the track here, but also they've sponsored or been involved in sponsorship in this race right from the beginning, back from 1975. Also got an onboard camera there with championship leader Max Papis. He starts in 6th place on the grid, and this should be fun because Juan Montoya has got an onboard camera. And Jeremy, we've already seen some fairly dramatic pictures from him this weekend.
Yes, we have. He's been off the road a few times. Actually, he was off this morning into an escape road. He's not really been very happy with the balance of that car all weekend. It's pushing too much for him, bit too much understeer. If managed to dial it out, it's certainly better than it was, but he's still not completely happy with that car. However, Juan Montoya, the one thing about him, he is sensational on cold tyres. And that's exactly what they got now. They don't use tyre warmers like in Formula 1. These guys, they just have to build up the heat, build up the pressures on this couple of pace laps, and then they go straight into the race with still relatively cold tyres. So I think the first corner could be very, very exciting indeed.
Yes, it's quite a long run down to the first corner from the green flag. There's Chip Ganassi. He's got his two men up there, and he's got to be concerned that they will both survive this first lap, Jimmy Vasser and Juan Montoya. It's a good relationship between them, but certainly not as close as the relationship that was between Zanardi and Vasser, and both of them will want to come out on top here.
That's absolutely right, and particularly last year Jimmy Vasser was very much eclipsed by Juan Montoya, the rookie driver who stole Jimmy's thunder completely. Well, Jimmy wanted to turn that around this season. He's worked very, very hard over the winter, and he's ready to go, and he's shown that this weekend he's been quicker than Montoya in every single session.
Now, here they go then, lining up, and they take green, and Gil De Ferran leads them away as they all head out. They didn't really get into a very good grid formation there, I have to say. And look at this battle as they come down to turn one. Vasser on the outside, Montoya on the inside, trying to take second from his teammate, but he backs out of it a little bit and stays in 3rd place. Fernandez in 4th position.
Wow, great job there by Jimmy Vasser. Montoya seemed to be in a position there to take that place away. Great credit. He didn't push the issue there. He could easily have collided and taken them both out of the race, and he saw that Vasser had a better line through the corner, and he ceded that position, and Jimmy saves in 2nd place.
Now then, look, a bit of a challenge going on here as Bryan Herta looking to find a way past Adrian Fernandez. Bryan Herta is driving the blue and white car that was being driven by Shinji Nakano at the season opener. The Japanese driver has been run by Walker Racing, so keep an eye out for that one. Bryan Herta, who was due to be competing with Forsyth Racing this year, that still hasn't happened. It may not happen at all this year, but watch out there, blue and white car, that's Bryan Herta, a former leader of the race here at Long Beach.
And that was Roberto Moreno, I think, trying to make a move there, perhaps on Kenny Breck for position. They started in 6th and 7th. We saw a car there diving to the inside. Don't think he was able to make that pass. But there they come past us now to complete lap 1. I'm not slightly surprised Ben actually got the green flag. The field was very well spread out, and that's not normally what they want for this sort of a track. Having said that, at least it ensures a clean start, a clean first corner. Look at that, Montoya falling back a bit already from Jimmy Vasser.
Yeah, that's a surprise to see the top two pulling away. Montoya in third place there, not quite as quick at this point, and that's, as I say, a little bit surprising. Normally, as you mentioned, he's always charging on cold tyres. This whole weekend, Jimmy Vasser has been quicker than Montoya. It wasn't just the final qualifying session. In general terms, Vasser's been much happier than Montoya. And Jimmy talking about the tyre that Firestone have brought to this race. It's a harder compound. Now that Firestone don't have any opposition from Goodyear, they can afford, of course, to run a harder compound tyre. The idea behind that is to get less marbles on these sort of street tracks, but Jimmy reckons that it actually really helps him. He loves driving on this slightly harder compound tyre. It suits his style.
Yes, it does. He's a very smooth driver. He doesn't like to throw the car around, and in order to throw the car around, it gets more temperature into the tyres early on, and that gives you a bit more grip perhaps right at the start of the race. But Jimmy likes to build up to it a little bit more, and he just feels it suits his style better. His smooth style is paying dividends, I think, this weekend. As I say, he's been quicker all weekend than Juan Montoya.
So that was a surprise. 2 laps completed. Let's have a look at the order. Gil De Ferran leads, Jimmy Vasser second, Montoya third, then Fernandez and Bryan Herta. We're looking at Herta there in that 5th place. And this is, of course, a change, as I mentioned, as he comes in to just stand in for Shinji Nakano, who's going to be out of action for at least a month or 2.
Yeah, that's right. He hurt himself in a crash in testing at Milwaukee, hit the wall heavily in turn 2 there, knocked himself out, was taken to the hospital, was actually discharged from the hospital, was complaining of headaches later on. They took another CAT scan. They said, wait a minute, you better sit out for a few races, and bruising of the brain. But a good job by Bryan Herta. Look, behind Bryan Herta is Roberto Moreno. He did get past Kenny Breck in that move on the first lap, and on the second lap, he also found a way past this man, Max Papis.
On board with Max Papis as he heads up the back stretch towards turn number 9. They're up to about 175 miles an hour before getting on the brakes up there. And just watch again from this onboard camera as he comes through this twiddly section, mostly taken in 3rd gear, popping down to 1st gear for the hairpin. Sharp hairpin, full lock to get it round that one, and then up through the gears as they head along Shoreline Drive. Across the line then, 3 laps completed. Max Papis is in 7th position. Let's watch him down into turn 1 here. Good smooth entry into that one, and everybody at this point just getting a feel. Cristiano Da Matta there, just being passed by Paul Tracy, and that was a battle for 15th position. So Paul Tracy has moved into 15th now.
Yeah, and Da Matta lost 3 places on the previous lap. Michael Andretti got past, and also following him past there was Christian Fittipaldi and Tony Kanaan. So Cristiano Da Matta there falling back in the early stages. Meanwhile, Dario Franchitti had got past Roberto Fontana at the start, but last lap around, Fontana had redressed the balance there.
That's a surprise. Fontana getting back past Franchitti. I wonder if Franchitti made a mistake somewhere. And he's back in 19th place again. Mark Blundell down in 20th position. And those two really seem to be struggling at the moment. Now, let's take another look. There was Da Matta coming out of the hairpin, Jeremy, was where he virtually lost it. He just managed to gather it back together. And that's really where those cars got past him. And then, because he'd lost that bit of momentum, it also allowed Paul Tracy to go past at the end of that straight. Gil De Ferran is race leader. There he is in the familiar Penske colours. Jimmy Vasser in 2nd place. Juan Montoya is 3rd. Fernandez, Herta and Moreno follow. On board now with Norberto Fontana. Fontana driving well here. He's in 18th position. Not so well up, you might say, but of course it's his first street course race in a champ car. And in spite of plenty of experience in Formula Nippon, or Formula 3000 if you want to call it that, in Japan, and even a little bit of Formula 1 experience a few years ago, driving a champ car with well over 800 horsepower, actually getting on for 900 horsepower, turbocharged engines, not an easy task at all when you've got concrete walls this close.
That's exactly right. And Fontana, he was doing a pretty good job on Friday and Saturday, and he, as we say, made a mistake in qualifying. That cost him quite a few positions, but he's certainly charging well this afternoon. He's made up a couple of places. He is running now in 18th. That's actually where he started, but he lost a couple of places early on, has regained those, and now he is working his way to try and find around Mauricio Guzman.
So heading down into turn 8, this is part of the new revised section of track, and then back on to this stretch, which is always in the recent years been a part of the Long Beach circuit. Our camera breaks up a little bit as they go beneath the bridges, but apart from that, we're getting some great pictures. Let's just quietly watch him through this top section heading towards the hairpin. Listening to those extremely rapid gear changes as they accelerate from that first gear hairpin. They're down to only just over 35 miles an hour accelerating out of that one, and then up to nearly 190 miles an hour before they get onto the brakes for turn one. So massive acceleration all the way along Shoreline Drive. Back with our race leader here though, and Gil De Ferran has an advantage of 1.3 seconds over Jimmy Vasser. Now, we mentioned Dario Franchitti. He's dropped back a few places. Let's see what's happened to Franchitti. Oh, he made a mistake right down into turn one, and would you believe it? Had to go down the escape road, and I think he's rejoined. Now, if you rejoin without gaining any places, you're allowed to do that, aren't you?
That's right. There's an escape road there. You cut off 3 or 4 corners there. As long as you don't make up any ground, the officials will let you get away with it. They figure that's safer than having somebody do a U-turn there in that pretty tight runoff area. Look at that, some closely racing there, a little bit farther back in the back. And as long as they reckon it's safer that way, you can come back out on the track, regain the race order. As long as you don't make up any positions, there will be no penalty. Look at Max Papis looking down the inside of Bryan Herta. No, not this time.
Not quite. No, that's turn one again. That's where Dario Franchitti went down the escape road there a moment ago. It's not a good day and not a good corner for Team Green either, because in the Indy Lights race earlier today, Johnny Kane, driving for Team Green, was leading this race, and he went down that escape road almost the same sort of way that Dario Franchitti did just then. But at the time, Johnny Kane was in the lead of the race. He threw away the lead, managed to rejoin. He came back in 6th place, but the Indy Lights race won by the New Zealander, Scott Dixon. So we've seen some action already here today, and we've seen plenty of cars taking that escape route.
And look there at Roberto Moreno. He's closed right up onto the tail now of Adrian Fernandez, and he did get past Herta last time around. Behind Herta there, Kenny Breck looking to make a move on Max Papis. That's not going to work there. And right behind those, we're on board now with Max Papis. Ahead of him is Bryan Herta. Behind him is his teammate Kenny Breck, but right behind Kenny Breck also is Mimo Gidley in the player's car.
Yes, let's just mention Mimo Gidley for a second, because he stands in for Patrick Carpentier this weekend. Patrick Carpentier has a broken wrist as a result of falling down his stairs at home, would you believe it? These guys race at speeds of up to 230 miles an hour on the super speedways, and poor old Patrick's gone and broken his wrist. No, not in a car accident at all, but by falling downstairs. Well, that's the way it goes. And Mimo Gidley has taken over the drive this weekend. Originally, funnily enough, Mimo was down to drive that number 5 car that Bryan Herta's driving, that one there. Now, Mimo was due to drive that car in place of Shinji Nakano. He had a seat fitting for that car, but in fact there was a sort of late change. A change of decision was made when Bryan Herta wasn't going to be racing. Clearly, the Forsyth outfit that he was supposed to be racing for wasn't going to be out. They decided to put Bryan in that car. And then, of course, Patrick had his accident. Suddenly, Forsyth needed another driver, and they chose Mimo Gidley. And so Mimo Gidley's seat, which had been made for him at the Walker race shop, was transported over to the Forsyth race shop, slotted into the car, ready to go.
You're with us on that one, right?
I'm lost. I hope you managed to keep up with that. Anyway, the answer is that the story is that Mimo Gidley's in this weekend. So is Bryan Herta. Unfortunately, no Shinji Nakano and Patrick Carpentier. I have to say, as stand-ins, they're both doing a great job. Bryan Herta lying 6th at the moment, as Roberto Moreno has got just ahead there again. And, well, he's just in front of Herta, and then Max Papis right in there as well. This is quite a gaggle of cars that's building up. Helio Castroneves is in that little group as well.
Yeah, not sure whether Moreno might have made a little bit of a mistake there, because he had been pulling away just a little bit from Bryan Herta, and we saw them coming through turn 1 and heard, oh dear, Adrian Fernandez has hit the wall. Maybe that's what, I don't know where that, not quite sure where that was, but there is Cristiano Da Matta. He's had a spin. He was way back in about 18th place.
So dramas as we reach the 10th lap of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Look at that. He had a spin on one of the fastest sections. Well, did they make contact?
Well, I hope not, because that's his teammate Roberto Moreno is right behind. You can see that Moreno has lost a lot of momentum, and all of a sudden there, you can see Adrian, he seems to be getting out of the car okay. Clearly a little bit dazed. That's the fastest part of the track. He waves to the crowd to signify that he is okay, and boy, that is good news.
It is good news, but I wonder quite what happened there. Fernandez was running in 4th place, and Roberto Moreno was in 5th, and the next thing we see, Moreno had dropped back. We'll try and get another look at that, but for the moment, Gil De Ferran is race leader. 11 laps have been completed here at Long Beach. Under the first caution of the day then, with 12 laps completed, 70 laps to go here around the streets of Long Beach. And the reason we're under yellow, the accident suffered by Adrian Fernandez, and we're still trying to see exactly what happened there as they came along Shoreline Drive. It was just past, just around the start-finish line area. We've also seen a drama in the pits. Several cars have just come into the pit lane, and Michael Andretti, look at this. This is what happened just a moment ago. He came out. Tracy was coming down already. Tracy didn't back off. He saw Michael coming, but thought that he might get an opportunity to jump Michael, and ended up running over his rear wheel. So all exciting stuff. I think we've got Cristiano Da Matta in pit lane. Let's hear from him.
But what happened at the end, I lost all the gears. The car was just getting into neutral. I mean, the dash was showing there wasn't any gear, so I think the angle gear or something on the drive is broken.
So it did not relate, it wasn't part of brushing the wall then?
No, because I brushed the wall. I thought there wasn't any problem. I carried on, and the car was still normal. No difference on handling, was still going straight. Both sides was turning fine. So it's just something on the drive.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So 26-year-old Cristiano Da Matta, whose best finish remains a 4th place at Nazareth, earned last year. Not going to get a good finish here today. He's out of the race already. Our first retirement, our second retirement, Adrian Fernandez, who's just crashed out and caused this first caution period. Well, we're looking at Maurizio Gugelmin. He's down in 13th place, but up front it's still Gil De Ferran driving for Team Penske, who leads. "13 laps have been completed at Long Beach in this second race of the Champ Car season, although it's the 3rd round, having missed the race at Nazareth. We're looking at the second event, and Max Papp is coming in as championship leader, of course, to this event. Max lying in 6th place at the moment. Norberto Fontana we're riding with, and driving a good race so far, Jeremy. He's in 12th place.
Right, he's passed Dario Franchitti, he's passed also Maurizio Gugelmin, and as you say, up into the point scoring position now, 12th place. That's worth 1 point at the end of the day. Just goes underneath a couple of tunnels there by the parking garage at the back of the convention centre.
Now, we think that the accident that Adrian Fernandez had just now wasn't involved another car. It sounds as though something seized up, either engine or gearbox, and that's what caused the spin on the straight.
It certainly looked that way. There seemed to be a bit of, certainly some daylight between the two cars as we saw Fernandez's car spinning off and spearing into the wall on the left-hand side of the road. And it looks like some sort of either a transmission problem. Maybe it selected the wrong gear. We've had a couple of incidents this weekend. In fact, Dario Franchitti on Saturday morning, he went from 2nd to 3rd gear coming out of the hairpin, and when he went, after he went into 3rd gear, it then, for some reason, selected 2nd shortly thereafter. So big revs on that engine. They had to change an engine. It didn't cause any major dramas. He was able to get the clutch in and not cause any particular drama, but certainly bad news there for Adrian Fernandez. Again, he's been running so well this weekend.
There's Fernandez pit. They're beginning to pack it all up. A sad day for him. He'd run very well. He was fastest on Friday. And interesting news for the Mexicans, of course, this weekend, Jeremy. He's going to become even more of a star, isn't he, in Mexico? Because they've announced that there will be a Champ Car race in Mexico starting from next year from the city of Monterrey. Let's go and hear from Adrian. I think he's down in pit lane now.
Big explosion. I don't know, something happened on the main straight while I was setting up to pass Montoya, and something happened, and the engine exploded, you know, in a big way, and I had no control. Everything seized, and the whole engine, I mean, the gearbox and everything. So it's hard to say, could it be the gearbox or something like that, but it's a shame. You know, it's 2 in a row now, and the car was looking pretty good, so I'm a little bit upset right now. It's not exactly what we needed to start the season.
Well, we're glad you're okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Gary?
Well, we talked about those.
Adrian Fernandez also out of luck, of course, at Homestead that he referred to. He was running very, very quickly at Homestead, and he was one of several of the Ford engine users to go out of that race. They've solved that problem. That turned out to be a faulty seal on an oil pipe, and actually an external oil pipe on the engine. They solved that problem, but something strange has happened to Fernandez today. Let's hope that it doesn't spread its way through the other Ford users.
Yeah, and as you said, obviously great disappointment because he really wanted to mount a championship challenge, and to do that you need to score points as often as you can. Meanwhile, there is the green flag.
Here we go, back to racing. Gil De Ferran leads them across the line. Good restart from the Brazilian. Oh, and we've got problems, as we might have expected at the hairpin. Looks like Maurizio, I think, is spun and is facing the wrong way. That's Maurizio Gugelmin, and the number 17 car, I think it's stalled, is it? Let's wait and see whether he can get that underway again. Walter Salles, a fellow Brazilian, gets going, and now, of course, we've got a more potential problem.
He stalled as well. He's not very happy. He was a long way behind the pack because he just made a pit stop on that previous lap. So bad news there for Walter Salles.
And we go yellow, full course caution once again. No great surprise there. This happens quite often at Long Beach, of course. He had a little punt there from Oriol Servia. Servia trying to get down the inside of him, and then a huge traffic jam as everybody tried to get around Maurizio. Franchitti got passed on the inside by Jourdain, I think, in the course of all that. And it was just a question of whether you went to the inside or the outside. Shouldn't take long to clear it up, but of course that has brought the yellows back out again. So there's Maurizio Gugelmin.
You're looking okay, Mo. When they get you going, stay up there.
Trying to get him going, says stay out there. Might as well. No damage done to the car. It was a harmless enough spin, and it would be worth just keeping him out there for the moment. Although the pit crew ready in case he does come into the pit. Gil De Ferran leading them around again then. And De Ferran, who, as we mentioned earlier, has had some great performances here at Long Beach, particularly when we look back to 1996 when he led this race until about 4 laps to go and one of the turbo pipes fell off and he lost all power. He did finish the race, but what a bit of disappointment that one was for Gilles.
Absolutely, he's been in total control all that weekend, and right at the last minute, almost the last gasp there, and he loses about 400 horsepower and limps around. I think he finished it in 5th position that day, but he deserved a heck of a lot better than that.
Well, he leads here today. Max Papis, championship leader, comes into the pit lane. He is running in 6th place. We're at 16 laps completed, still some way into the first pit window, if you like. They should be able to push it to nearly lap 30, so it's about halfway into what we might expect, and particularly with all these yellow flags, they'll be able to push it even further than that. So Papis choosing an interesting time to come into pit lane, and I would imagine that he and Kenny Breck will be on different strategies, the two teammates at Team Rahal.
Yes, Oriol Servia in the pits as well there. For Servia, he'd been running in 14th place. For Papis, not quite sure about the timing of that one. I hope that one doesn't come back to haunt them later on.
Well, we'll wait and see. Gil De Ferran leads Vasser and Montoya around in this early stage of the race. Well, there's been plenty of success for Penske here at Long Beach in the past, but it's a bit early to talk about that. We haven't even had the leaders in their first pit stop. Green flag gets them underway once again. 17 laps have been completed, still some 65 laps to go, and Gilles, as aware as anybody that the only way he's going to win this race is to still be up there when the checkered flag comes out at the end of it. Vasser chasing him in 2nd place. He was the man who inherited the win from De Ferran back in 1996. Montoya in 3rd position. Moreno still running strongly in 4th place. As we discovered from Adrian Fernandez, there was no problem between Fernandez and Moreno earlier on. It was purely that he suffered that engine failure or transmission failure. It may well have been a gearbox problem that seized the car up and saw Adrian go into a spin, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. Herta running in 5th place at the moment, just a little behind Moreno. So we look at our current standings. The advantage that De Ferran has over Vasser, about 0.6 of a second. Look out for Moreno, though, because Moreno running in 4th place, really beginning to put some pressure on Juan Montoya.
Roberto looks very racy this afternoon, and Montoya is not happy with the handling of this car. Moreno, meanwhile, is absolutely delighted. Look at that oversteer there coming off the corner, correcting the slide there. That's normally you're trying to put 800 horsepower at least down onto the road, coming out of a 30-mile-an-hour hairpin. But look at Moreno now. He is all over Montoya. Montoya has to defend the inside line.
Moreno goes round the outside, breaks later than Montoya, and look at that, he made it look so easy. Montoya must be struggling a little bit with the balance of his car still. Moreno got a bit sideways there, going around the fountain area, but he keeps it under control. Moreno's up into 3rd place, and remember, Roberto finished in 2nd place at Homestead. He's never won one of these races, but he's had a couple of great results. The end of last year, he had a 2nd place, and started this season 2nd position with his full-time drive now at Patrick Racing. Moreno in the Vistion Patrick. Reynard Ford is flying here today.
I was talking to Roberto just an hour or so ago, and I said, is today the day, Roberto? And he looked at me sort of and he gave me a little smile. He said, I don't know, but look at him now. He's sizing up Jimmy Vasser, and down the inside he goes.
Look at that. Roberto Moreno just sized past Jimmy Vasser to move into second position. And Roberto Moreno now going to chase after fellow Brazilian Gil De Ferran. And what a story this is. Absolutely astonishing to see the crowd standing up in the grandstand just ahead of our commentary box there. And Roberto getting plenty of support. He's been on the scene on and off for many, many years here in America. Very popular man as well. And he's into second place. Look at that.
Great stuff. What a he's a lovely guy, Roberto Moreno. He looks perhaps older than his 40 years. He is the oldest driver in the field, as you say. He doesn't drive that way. He doesn't act that way. And he's really charging this afternoon. Great drive so far.
Still has that sort of youthful enthusiasm for driving and for the whole sport, and is so committed as well with it. His wife is here today. She was on the back of the presentation trucks when they were going around earlier on. But that is a racing family, and Roberto built his whole life on racing, and at last he's got a chance this year with a full-time ride. Bit of a stacking up of cars at the back there we saw, but here comes Gil De Ferran. Roberto Moreno chasing after him. Keep an eye on the lap times over the next few laps, because last time around these two very evenly matched on 1 minute 12.1, and everyone else a little bit slower.
Yeah, and the Ford Cosworth horsepower told there. It was on the straight, really, that Moreno made that move on Montoya, going down into turn one. He was able to drive around him on the outside line, brake as deep as he needed to do, and get across and in on to take the racing line through the corner and take away that position. On the back straight also, he was able to get alongside Jimmy Vasser. It was a horsepower that told, and now he is closing on Gil De Ferran.
And it's horsepower versus fuel economy that counts in a race like this as well, Jeremy. Don't forget, if you can get all that horsepower and still not use too much fuel, you'll be in an advantage because you don't stop in the pit lane for quite so long. And Roberto is renowned for using a little less fuel than some of the other drivers. That could give him an edge as we go through this race, because if that means his pit crew can get him filled up with fuel and out a bit quicker, it could be a place change from pits.
And look at that, there goes Kenny Breck down the inside of Montoya into turn one. Bryan Herta had got past Montoya, and look at Montoya is really struggling here. He cannot hold off Kenny Breck, and he is dropping back through the field. Next in line behind him is Mimo Gidley. What a great drive by Gidley. He's such a good guy. He's worked so hard to get himself in the position. Round the outside goes Gidley off Montoya. Brilliant stuff.
It's interesting to see. Montoya doesn't seem to be battling it out on the brakes as much as you might imagine him. I wondered whether it was a question of the Toyota engine perhaps not producing the fuel mileage as much as the others, but that's not the case here. He's obviously struggling more than that. He's not even bothering to really brave it out on the brakes into these corners, and Montoya is dropping down the order. He's down in 7th position now, and he seems to be struggling here today. Well, the mark of a champion is to still pull a result out of the bag when things aren't going well. Taking a look here, that was when Bryan Herta went past. He'd already gone through by the time we saw Kenny Breck making his move, and it means that the order, let's update you, it's all changed a bit. Gil De Ferran still our race leader. Now we have Roberto Moreno in 2nd place by just a second. Then Jimmy Vasser 3rd, Herta now 4th, Breck now 5th, Gidley is 6th, Montoya is back down in 7th. "23 laps have been completed now. Gil De Ferran continues to lead this by 1.6 seconds from Roberto Moreno. Jimmy Vasser in 3rd, Herta, Breck, and then Mimo Gidley. And Montoya, we've seen him a couple of times just running a bit wide. He's struggling to get this car to work effectively, and you can see how close Helio Castroneves is. Castroneves is driving the other Penske entered car, the Reynard Honda number 3 there, right behind Juan Montoya now, and behind Helio Castroneves is the rookie that was so impressive in Homestead, Alex Tagliani. Oh, and that's Franchitti. That is Dario Franchitti, punctured right rear. Did he hit the wall? Is that a puncture that's come from debris? I don't know, but Franchitti's miserable weekend continues here at Long Beach, and I think this is one to just consign to the history books from his point of view. It's been a horrible time.
Yeah, just put this one down in experience and get on to the next one. What a disaster. Horrible weekend, as you say. No points once again for Dario Franchitti.
Well, it hasn't worked out at all well for him, but driving well at the moment is the Argentine driver Norberto Fontana. Funnily enough, Jeremy, if we go back in the history books here at Long Beach, there was another Argentine driver who did rather well here some years ago. Carlos Reutemann was his name, one of the winners of the Formula One event that was held here. Formula One ran from 1976 to 1983. The last winner of a Formula One Grand Prix here was John Watson. And then in 1984, Champ Cars became the main race here, with Mario Andretti taking the first victory in that season. But of course, we've seen a lot of international interest, and it's a great crowd here at Long Beach. They love their motorsport. They enjoyed Formula One being here, and they love the international interest here, provided by drivers like Norberto Fontana from Argentina. We've got plenty of Brazilians in the series this weekend, and we've got a Scotsman, but I'm afraid the Scotsman is not going to be going much further by the look of it. That was Team Green looking at their monitors in a concerned way down in pit lane. They seem to have spent their weekend doing that quite a lot as well. When he crashed in qualifying yesterday, they were extremely downhearted. They really thought that he had a chance of getting somewhere near the front, as he normally does on the street tracks, but not on this occasion. De Ferran coming through, 2.2 seconds his advantage over Roberto Moreno, so he's managed to almost pull it out again a little bit. Seemed to be quite happy when Vasser was sitting behind him, not to push too hard, but now that he's got Moreno up into second, it's made Gil go a little quicker. Now this is what happened to Dario, trying to get round Michel Jourdain. Well, he was far enough ahead, that's for sure, but unfortunately the contact was made, and that is what has caused the puncture to the right rear. In fact, yes, he went off at the very next corner. Yeah, what a shame for Dario Frank. He tried to get that move completed, and you know, he was 99% of the way past Jourdain, but Jourdain didn't see fit to give him the room, and contact was made. Bit of a shame, bit unlucky, I think, that for Dario Franchitti. Yeah, it all seems a bit unnecessary there, but look at this. Montoya is being passed once again, and that's Tagliani who's gone past him. Gidley already ahead, so Tagliani getting past Montoya. And, well, Montoya really is struggling, and various problems are being reported. Into the pits he comes, in fact, Jeremy.
In the pits, 4, 10, 4. Caution alarm,
Trying to make out the radio. We'll listen out for the radio. Chip Ganassi talking to Juan Montoya, remember. Team boss, always in communication. Let's listen to that as he comes in. They had a problem with one of the tyres on the left front. Apparently was causing problems. Almost due time for a pit stop anyway, and a clean stop for him. He's right down the end of the pit lane, but has to run on the speed limiter for quite a lot further down this long pit lane, which must seem like forever when he's been doing 185 miles an hour past that section on the track.
And here we look at Bryan Herta coming under pressure from, ironically, the shell car of Kenny Breck. That, of course, is the car that Herta drove last year. Well, Herta is struggling the last few laps. He's falling back. He's still in fourth position, but he's falling back from the fourth place car. Oh, sorry, he's in fourth place behind Jimmy Vasser. And Herta was telling me yesterday he was not happy with the car on long runs. As he did more and more laps, the car tended to slide more and more. It became very difficult to drive, and I think that's what we're finding now. The tyres are getting used up pretty much, and he is losing ground to Jimmy Vasser and coming under increasing pressure from Kenny Breck and Mimo Gidley.
Yes, Kenny Breck, remember, let's just remind you about Kenny. He has joined in the Champ Car Series this year, the Swedish driver, but he's had plenty of experience here in the States. He's an IRL champion, the Indy Racing League, and also winner of the Indy 500 last year. So Kenny Breck comes in with a great deal of good success behind him, and he's joined Team Rahal alongside Max Papis. And as you say, Jeremy, taking over that drive, that shell ride that Bryan Herta had last season. So it's quite an interesting tussle between them.
It certainly is. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Gil De Ferran is flying. He just set the fastest lap of the race at a 1:09.848. He's the first one into the nines, I think. Actually, not looking down the order here, Tagliani did a 9 last time around as well. But he is inching away now from Roberto Moreno. The gap out almost to 3 seconds, and Jimmy Vasser another 3 seconds farther behind in third place.
28 laps completed. Not long now until we see Gil De Ferran having to make his first pit stop, although of course remember there were quite a few laps held under yellow flag, so that'll push the pit window up into the early 30s in terms of number of laps. And as I say, we're at lap number 28 currently. Kenny Breck there with Mimo Gidley behind him. What a great name it is, Mimo Gidley. What a great background he has as well. Son of a fisherman, and spent much of his early childhood living on a boat for half the year, and then getting into racing, did a bit of bike racing, a bit of kart racing, but a guy who's really made it for himself, worked as a mechanic to earn his early drives, and here he is running in 6th place in the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Looking down over packed grandstands here at Long Beach. A fantastic crowd turning out to watch Gil De Ferran leading the first part of this race. 30 laps have been completed here, and that means that we've got some 52 laps still to go, slightly over a third distance now, with Roberto Moreno running in second. We're on board again with Norberto Fontana, the Argentine driver, and well, we're impressed with him so far, I have to say. He's lying in 10th position and has overtaken several drivers in the course of this race. 25 years old is Fontana. Tiny chap, one of the smaller drivers, and of course racing drivers tend to be on the small side anyway. Into the pits comes Gil De Ferran. Right, here we go. We said early 30s for the leaders' pit stops. We're at lap 31, and Gil De Ferran in for his stop with Team Penske. This brilliant pit crew at work. A little bit of clearing going on in the side pod there. The fuel going on board. It's a gravity-fed fuel system, remember. They don't pressurize the fuel in Champ Car racing, so it takes longer than it does in Formula One to get that fuel aboard, but it's gone aboard cleanly, and now he comes out. Now then, how many laps can Roberto Moreno manage on the fuel that he's got in his car compared to what Gil could do?
Well, that's very interesting indeed, and certainly if you remember, cast your mind back to Homestead, who was the guy that came in first on the second sequence of pit stops? It was Gil De Ferran, and that cost him the chance to win the race, because 2 laps later, out came the caution, and effectively he was put a lap down to the leaders, at least briefly. So that was very interesting. He did not get very particularly good fuel consumption. It cost him dearly then, and he'll have to hope. Clearly he's the first of the leaders now to make a pit stop, so he's not getting quite so good consumption as the other guys, and we'll see whether that will cost him ultimately. But certainly Moreno, as you say, Ben, does get very good fuel consumption, and Jimmy Vasser is also a good man on the economy runs, and we'll see how that pans out the next few laps here.
It is going to be critical, and the number of laps that Moreno can do here, in addition to what Gil De Ferran has done, will give us a big idea. And remember, what it comes down to basically is you just have to put a bit less fuel in the car when it comes into the pits, less time spent in the pit lane, and you get out ahead. That's what it's all about, and if you can just drive using a little less fuel than the other guy, that's where your advantage comes, time in the pit lane. And as I mentioned, without pressurizing the fuel in Champ Car racing, it makes even more of a difference than it might in other forms of motorsport. Tony Kanaan in the pit lane then. We haven't seen a great deal of Tony as yet in this race, so I mentioned him earlier on. He's running in 16th place at the moment, driving with Mercedes power in the back of that Mo Nunn Racing entered car. It's a new team this year, entered by Maurice Nunn, of course, who was the engineer who gave so much success to Team Ganassi in recent years. Now, is Moreno coming in this time? Can he get another lap on the amount of fuel he started the race with?
In. We there from the pit crew, and we're not quite sure who that was for. Was that for Jimmy Vasser? I think it was for Jimmy Vasser. Vasser we see pulling into the pit lane. Here comes Jimmy at 50 miles an hour down the pit lane and into the crew, and they will go to work. That is Ricky Davis and the boys will serve the target car. Here they go. Watch this.
Let's see them at work. They are, of course, amongst the best in the pit lane. It's part of the reason of their success over the last 4 years. 4 titles in 4 years. Jimmy started the ball rolling with his championship win in 1996, and he's got a win here on his way to winning that. That was a good one. They were pleased with that. 13.5 seconds for the stop for Jimmy Vasser. We'll expect to see another stop, of course, for all of these cars in the course of this race. It is a 2-stop event, as are all the Champ Car races. They're only given enough fuel, basically, to get through the race on 2 stops, so we always know that's what's planned. Kenny Breck has been into the pits. There he is, just leaving now, and most of that other lead group also has been in, but Moreno has managed to stay out. He's getting great fuel mileage.
Yes, he is. He also turned in some very fast laps as well. 9.9 last time around, and that will serve him well. But now, into the pits comes the race leader, Roberto Moreno.
So the Patrick Racing crew now go to work to see what they can do. The Vistion team. They've seen their other car go out of this race already, Adrian Fernandez, a race winner in recent years, of course, on various different types of track. And Moreno, the refueling continues, gets it in gear, and it's a good getaway for Roberto. They're pleased with that one, and he heads down pit lane. But will he get out ahead of Gil De Ferran? That will be the interesting one to see. Bryan Herta is in the pits now. He also has been going well. Honda power in the back of that machine, remember. He's getting good fuel mileage out of that car, and that's typical of Bryan's very smooth driving style. He gets away cleanly. Another mid-13-second stop.
Yeah, excellent service there by Walker Racing's crew. That's Tim Broyles and the lads there. Meanwhile, out in the lead of this race is Mimo Gidley. He's getting better fuel consumption than anybody.
Just Gil De Ferran went past just our commentary box just then, and I noticed that he's actually got a little bottled up behind one of the target cars, and I think it must be Montoya. We're waiting.
No, it wasn't. It was Jimmy. Jimmy got out ahead of Gil De Ferran, so that's very interesting indeed. You know, with the longer you stay out and you can take advantage of the warm tyres, the more ground you can make up, and that is what turned out in his favour. Now, where will Moreno come out in the sequence?
Let's take a look. Now, this is with De Ferran. He'd come out behind Vasser, going past Gualter Sales here. Oh, Gualter, what were you doing? You should have let the leader come through a bit more cleanly than that. So contact was made. Should have survived that, I would think. It wasn't heavy contact. Mimo Gidley in the pits now.
Reset the fuel.
He's listening to the radio. As Mimo makes a stop. His first one for the Forsyth team. Very quick stop. 10.6 seconds. Now, whether the clock started exactly when he stopped, that was a very rapid stop, or unless they put a little less fuel in. Now, how have they all come out? There is Michael Andretti.
And he is actually leading the race now. He has not yet stopped. Meanwhile, I can tell you, in 8th place overall is Roberto Moreno. And I think that is going to be good enough to put him into the lead of the race.
The only question, of course, is what difference will it make with those drivers who stopped earlier on in this race, the likes of Mark Blundell, Montoya. Montoya is down the escape road there. Now, his day has also been a very poor one, and it looks as though it might be over. He was running a long way down anyway. Hasn't been into the pits yet, I noticed, Jeremy. And now he's slid down the escape road. Here he was behind Norberto Fontana. And does he lock everything up? What happens here? Oh, well, he gets a bit of a wiggle turning in, and then decides that I'm not going to make it and go down the escape road, and that's what he does. So a bit of a surprise in the race itself to take that choice. I would have thought that he might have tried to make the corner, and now he's a bit frustrated trying to get this thing turned around. It's not easy getting reverse gear in these things. You can see he's struggling to get it in reverse, and he can't, basically, I think. He's on the radio, and it's not happening for him. It's all gone wrong. The winner here from last year is not going to win here today. His teammate might still win it, but at the moment, Michael Andretti is our race leader, yet to stop. Welcome back to the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. 38 laps have been completed, 44 laps still to go, and race leader is Michael Andretti. He was one of the drivers who took the early opportunity to stop under a caution period today, and Michael is leading this race ahead of the other drivers who stopped early. It's Paul Tracy, Christian Fittipaldi. So after 38 laps, we've seen 4 leaders, 3 changes of lead, and a couple of cautions. We had more than one caution actually, because we had a second caution very quickly after that. A couple of cars out, but not as many retirements as we might have expected. But Juan Montoya, we saw just a moment ago, in trouble, so it looks as though he may not continue. We'll wait and see. There wasn't actually any damage done to the car, but I'm not sure if he's been round again yet. And Juan Montoya.
Yeah, no, he has not been seen since. I think he's parted in the escape road. Also not seen this time around was Mimo Gidley. What a great shame. He'd been running fantastically well. He got ahead of Bryan Herta in those pit stops and was running in, well, 11th place overall, but effectively 4th if you consider the people on the same pit sequence. So, and he hasn't come around, so that's a shame for Gidley.
Now, we saw Roberto Moreno was leading before he made that pit stop. Let me tell you that Moreno did get out in front of all of the drivers that he was racing with at the time. So Moreno, although he's in 8th position now, was ahead of Vasser. He's ahead of De Ferran, who was the main loser in that first round of pit stops. Herta's back there as well. So we've got 2 races going on here, yes, Jeremy, because of the different timing of their first pit stops. This is the race for the lead at the moment. Oh, Papis has spun. Papis has lost it, and now Papis was running in 6th place. Championship leader coming into this race. Needed to get points, and he's damaged the rear wing. Look at that, he's made fairly hefty contact with a wall somewhere, but I haven't seen exactly what happened. We might get some replay from the onboard camera if we get a chance in a moment. And the yellows are out once again, so that stacks everything up. Now then, what's this going to do in terms of strategy? This will give an opportunity for the likes of Michael and Paul to come in, but I say but because there's still 43 laps to go. If they try to make this their second and only second stop, I don't think they'd make it to the end on that.
No, and as you talk, by the way, just let me tell you, Juan Montoya did just come past, but he is now 4 laps down. So we will see pit stops now. We do see pit stops now. That's interesting. Paul Tracy came in the pits, but the two Newman Haas cars didn't. Mark Blundell also is in the pits. So that's an interesting piece of strategy. Sevilla stays out there. Let me tell you, Takuya Kurosawa is now in 4th place, and he was running right behind Max Papis. And effectively, the top 7 cars were in a pretty long train. The first 3 were maybe a little bit ahead. That was Michael Andretti, Fittipaldi, and Tracy, or Michael Andretti, Tracy, and Fittipaldi. And then just a second or so back was Blundell, Sevilla, Papis, and Kurosawa right with him. Great job by the Japanese driver.
Yeah, good for him. It's nice to see he's doing well. A lot of experience from Japan. Now, here we go. Well done to Powell. He lost it on his own, did Max. Looked as though it really snatched under braking.
Well,
there.
yeah, he didn't look to have much, didn't seem to slow down much at all. He was carrying a lot of speed in that corner. Here at the end of the straight, there goes Sevilla down the outside. Actually, he is passing Sevilla down the inside. But now, look at what's this. Listen. Yeah, he didn't seem to lose much speed. He got on the brakes, so he didn't seem to slow down much at all. And around the car goes, and the heavy impact there. Look at that again. Yeah, no question. The brakes, he had some kind of a brake problem there. I am absolutely convinced.
Yeah, something very strange happened there. Or I wonder if it was a transmission lock-up again. It could have been perhaps the same sort of thing could have caused that. But certainly the way that got away from Max very quickly indeed. Now, here comes Juan Montoya. He did get out of that escape road eventually, but he is a long way down. What did you reckon, 4 laps down?
4 laps down, and certainly out of contention for this weekend. There's be a lot of people will make a sigh of relief with that. Montoya has been absolutely sensational since joining this series last year. He didn't seem to have many bad weekends, at least not where he was struggling with the car. Maybe he made a couple of mistakes here and there. Maybe he actually had a mechanical problem, but rarely did he struggle with the handling of the car, and that has been his big bugbear this weekend all the way through the race meeting.
Of course, Mo Nunn has left that team now. He's working with a new race engineer, but a very good race engineer. Bill Pappas was at Walker Racing, working with Gil De Ferran up until the end of last year. We know that Gil, well, certainly here, I mean, amongst any other places, Gil always had a good setup for this racetrack, so you can't say that race engineer for Juan Montoya doesn't know how to get a car to go well around this place. Great view there of Max Pappas' car being craned away, and that's the ideal way, of course, of getting rid of cars that have spun to a halt or have retired, and that's down at just around the outside of the aquarium, the fairly new aquarium that's been built here at Long Beach, a very popular venue for tourists as well now, and this area that has been revived greatly over the years. Michael Andretti still our race leader under yellow. The view from onboard Mark Blundell's car. He runs down in 9th position at the moment. We have just gone over the half distance point, and we're watching one of those fascinating, intriguing races which are so enjoyable when you get guys on slightly different strategies and you never quite know how it's going to turn out until you get into the last few laps of the race. What we do know is that Roberto Moreno was flying in the early part of this race, that he made an excellent pit stop earlier on, and he's now in 3rd place overall, but he's behind 2 cars that stopped early on this afternoon and are trying to push it, but they only come in one more time as well. Michael Andretti and Christian Fittipaldi.
Right, now let me tell you what Newman Haas Racing is praying for. They are praying that if this goes green in a lap or two, that there is a shunt, a big pile-up somewhere on the track. There's going to be another caution that would enable them to come into the pits. However, here's what's going to happen. When they all come in to make a pit stop, as I say, everybody else has to make one more pit stop before the end of this race. Newman Haas is going to have to take on a full 35 gallons of fuel, and most of these other guys take on significantly less. Newman Haas, they made their stops on lap 11 earlier on. Gil De Ferran, for example, on lap 31, and Roberto Moreno on lap 34. So Moreno really doesn't need a heck of a lot of fuel in that car. He only needs 8 or 10 gallons, and that is what takes the time, getting that fuel into that fuel cell. The tires, they can change very quickly indeed. The fuel is what takes the time, and that is the determining factor on how long each driver's pit stop will be.
So, all good fun and games. Helio Castroneves at the back of that line, and don't forget Gil De Ferran, of course, also running well. Here we go. Getting the green flag ready to fly, it's Michael Andretti who sets them off once again, completing 43 laps with 39 laps to go. Michael leads them away. Christian Fittipaldi in 2nd place. Roberto Moreno now up to 3rd place with a number of those other cars having stopped. Look at this, Gil De Ferran. Well, that's not for a place change. That's just getting past the lapped car of Michel Jourdain. Meanwhile, good battle there between Kenny Breck and Alex Tagliani. Tagliani just managing to hold on to that position. So Kenny Breck stays behind him in the Shell car. Behind Breck, it's Norberto Fontana, 11th place. for the Argentinian driver. Behind him is Tony Kanaan in 12th position. And all of these cars very, very evenly matched on lap times.
That's right, behind Kanaan is Servier, Kurosawa and Castro Neves. Those are the cars on the lead lap. We have 15 cars on the lead lap. We have Jourdain and Goujon in 1 lap down, and we have Juan Montoya 4 laps down.
Still out there is Montoya, but he is 4 laps down. We've lost several drivers from this race, remember. Cristiano Da Matta, we lost Adrian Fernandez. Dario Franchitti has gone out. Walter Sales is still out there, but he's a long way down. He's 9 laps down. He's had all sorts of problems. Also out Garcia. Well, no, he's still there, but a long way down the order, 6 laps down. And Mimo Gidley is right out of it. Montoya, well, it looks as though it's pretty much over for him. Has he gone down another escape road? Yes, he has.
Yes, he has. And once again, I think that was probably the same place, the end of the back straight, and just a miserable day for Juan Montoya.
There is Gil De Ferran, the man who was on pole, who led the first part of this race. Currently lies in 5th place, but more importantly, what will concern him perhaps is the fact that he's behind Moreno and behind Vasser, who were behind him before that first pit stop. So definitely losing ground. He was one of the first to stop, and they had to put a bit more fuel in, and that's what cost him time. Herta right behind him. Then Paul Tracy is in 7th place. Mark Blundell in 8th position in the Pac West entry. And as we mentioned, Tagliani then holding on to 9th place behind him.
Now the next lap or 2, I would think, certainly 2 or 3 laps, both Newman House cars, Michael Andretti and Cristian Fittipaldi, are going to need to make a pit stop. From that position, they will be able to go to the end. They are going to have to take on a full 35 gallons of fuel. That'll take a little bit over 12 seconds probably, and when the other leaders come in, they will take on less fuel. Look at that, and a good move there by Takura Kurosawa. Well, it's a lap car of Michel Jourdain Jr. But Kurosawa really is doing a nice job this afternoon.
Yep, another new name to deal with, Takuya Kurosawa, the Japanese driver. More experienced than some of the other Japanese drivers that we've seen over here, but not experienced in terms of American motorsport, because all of his racing has been done in Japan, mainly in things like GTs more recently. Oh, and Gidley. That's Gidley again.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's Herta.
Bryan Herta, who went off the road there in turn 1 and rejoins just ahead of the Oriol Servier there in 13th place. So a bad mistake by Herta, apparently.
Yeah, I wonder what happened. I wonder if he was actually battling for position. We might get another look at that.
Yeah, he was battling with Paul Tracy, so maybe we'll have a look at that. And we're on board there with, well, inconclusive there. There is Herta spinning it around. Nice job there to get into the escape road and get out again. He lost, though, 7 or 8 positions. He was in 6th place, no longer.
So a shame there for Bryan Herta. Standing in for Shinji Nakano this weekend at Walker Racing. And that's lost him several valuable places. He goes through in 6th position. Up front, our race leader still after 46 laps is Michael Andretti, but we are expecting to see Michael have to come into the pits soon. Cristian Fittipaldi running in 2nd place. Remember, the Newman Haas team, a change of equipment for them again this year. They've gone to Lola chassis, still with Ford power, but Newman Haas back with Lola. They took many wins with Lola over the years. Look at this, Tony Kanaan trying to get down the inside of Kenny Breck, and that's a move that he has pulled off, and that's for 9th place. So well done to Tony Kanaan, the first of those 2 cars, and he's managed to just squeeze past the shell car of Kenny Breck and Norberto Fontana there right behind, trying to do the same.
Very nice move by Tony Kanaan. He's been struggling this weekend with the balance of that car. Maurice Nunn, who's the team owner now, of course, he was with Target Chip Ganassi Racing, took them to 4 championships in the last 4 seasons, left there to set up his own organisation. And certainly Kanaan has struggled this weekend, but that car is running well in race trim.
We gather that Andretti will be coming in next time by, and that's to be expected. He's done a lot of laps since his early pit stop, but he can't go any further, and without the yellow coming out in the next lap, then it's really going to hurt his chances here. He didn't really have a great deal of chance anyway, but strategy could have played its part. It could have meant that Michael Andretti would have gone ahead, but in spite of him lapping quickly up front, 1:10.2 on that last lap, which is as quick as anybody else is doing at the moment, faster in fact than anyone else. In spite of that, Michael, I think, is going to find himself a fair bit way down the order after his pit stop. But don't forget, these guys also have to make a pit stop.
That's exactly right.
It won't be too bad for him.
That's exactly right, Ben. And he's driving a great race at the moment. He's pulling away significantly now from Cristian Fittipaldi, who is holding up Roberto Moreno. I can't imagine these two are playing some sort of a strategy game whereby Cristian Fittipaldi holds up Moreno just long enough for Michael to get away. The difference in the pit stop times is probably going to be something in the region of 5 or 6 seconds, and there goes Moreno past Christian Fittipaldi. Now here comes Michael Andretti. I think he's coming in the pits this time. I hope Christian wasn't running out of fuel back there.
I was just wondering that. I have to say, it did occur to me.
I think he is.
Yeah.
I think he is. Look at him, he's slowed down. Around the outside of him goes Jimmy Vasser into the hairpin, and De Ferran as well sneaks down the inside. I'm pretty sure he's out of fuel. And these things, they pick up. There comes Michael Andretti, meanwhile, into the pits and back into the lead. Roberto Moreno.
Well, Michael Andretti's managed to make it through to the pits on the amount of fuel he had, but that's how close they ran it. Christian Fittipaldi running out on the in-lap. Let's just listen up on the radio. Full tank of fuel to go on here, and this amount of fuel has to get him to the end, but 34 laps to go, that's fine. Slowed a little bit by the fact that teammate Christian Fittipaldi came in.
Christian, out, Christian, shut it off, out.
Oh, and it's all gone wrong for Christian Fittipaldi. Oh, look at that. They were very quick to tell Christian to get out of the car, very wise with that as well. And remember, methanol burning with an invisible flame. It was the bodywork that caught fire that you could see the flames from there. But when methanol itself catches fire, you can't see the flames. And that's why everybody starts throwing water everywhere. It is put out very quickly with just water, a methanol fire. But that's why they were very, very quick to sort things out there. Christian out of the car, and well, I'm not sure quite what happened there, but there.
He's maybe sprained his ankle or something just jumping out of it. He certainly exited that car stage right pretty rapidly, and hopefully he'll be okay.
Yeah, that's a bit of a worry to see Christian being. Oh, he's standing up now. So maybe he just sprained something. He may well have just sprained something getting out of the car, but it looks as though everything's okay now. Let's take another look at this. The smoke was pouring out. Let's look at the way the flame burst out. Watch. Oh, yes, you see, he took quite a tumble there, and I think he sprained his ankle. You'll also notice that the target guys were very quick to come in and lend some assistance there. I don't know if we'll get to see that, but you could see them reacting very quickly, and everybody in the pit lane very fast to react to an incident like that. Christian Fittipaldi taking quite a painful tumble. I think he's just badly sprained his ankle there.
You can see he turned his ankle as he hit the ground there, jumping out. His right foot slipped on the bodywork, and when he hit the ground, he was off balance and went tumbling down the pit lane. And it's a nasty tumble, but hopefully he'll be okay. Meanwhile, here is the race leader Roberto Moreno, and we can see kind of the gap. Well, not on that shot we can't, but there goes Moreno out of the hairpin, and here comes Jimmy Vasser in second place. There is Gil De Ferran in third.
So that's the situation. There's Christian Fittipaldi down in the pits, and he's out of the race, having run in second place behind Michael for a while. Another look at this replay as the smoke came out, and then suddenly, woof, off it went. Great pictures from the cameraman down there in pit lane, and very close to the fire itself. But Christian and everybody else, thankfully, okay. A bit of damage done to the back of his car. But up front now, we've got Roberto Moreno. Jimmy Vasser running in second place, Gil De Ferran in third. It's all the drivers, well, the top three of the drivers we saw battling out in the early part of this race. But it's interesting to see that behind them, taking advantage of pit strategy, Tracy and Blundell. But we don't think that unless we have an awful lot of yellow flag laps between now and the checkered flag, that Tracy and Blundell will be able to get through this race on the amount of fuel in their cars, because they stopped quite early on, and a great many laps still to do.
Yeah, they stopped on lap 40. That would mean they're going to do 42 laps now. I'm pretty sure they're going to need a caution to help them in order to make the finish. A fairly lengthy caution as well, I would think. They could probably do, as I say, 32 or 33 laps if they lean off that mixture. What I mean by lean mixture is it's in an internal combustion engine. It's the fuel and the air that is ignited in the combustion chambers. That's effectively what produces the horsepower in these engines, and it can alter that fuel-air mixture. If you have a lean mixture, it means less fuel, more air, better fuel consumption, less horsepower. If you have a rich mixture, you get better horsepower, but less fuel consumption. And that's what the engineers in the pits have to work out, where that fuel mixture should be as the race progresses.
And it is something that can be adjusted by the driver in the cockpit at any time, but only on word from his engineer as to where he should be at any specific moment in the race. They can adjust that and keep control of it. And Roberto, as we mentioned earlier, is one of the best at fuel mileage, at getting more miles out of the amount of fuel in that car, and still putting in lap times that are capable of leading the race, which is what he's doing now. Last time round, a 1 minute 10.3, but it was a 1 minute 9.7 from Jimmy Vasser in second place. 1 minute 9.9 from Gil De Ferran. They're beginning to pick up the pace behind him as they all look to try and get as close together as possible before the final round of pit stops.
Yeah, I think fuel consumption now shouldn't be a factor for everybody, so they can turn up that fuel mixture, they can run it full rich, and that will give them plenty of horsepower, and they can just go as fast as they can. And the last time around, Jimmy Vasser shaves off another tenth or so of a second, 1.5 now between these two. Here comes Moreno, there is Jimmy Vasser, and there in third place is Gil De Ferran.
What a tremendous race we have in prospect between these three as it develops. There's still 30 laps to go, and of course that final second pit stop will be crucial to the outcome of this race. Mark Blundell running in 5th place at the moment, just behind Paul Tracy. Let's take a look at Mark Blundell's onboard camera here as he heads down towards turn number 1. And then accelerating, sorry, not turn number 1, he's down at turn 6, 7 and up to turn 8. This is the revised section of track, and now onto the backstretch. Just lose the camera a bit as we are under the bridges here. We're building up to about 175 miles an hour before getting hard on the brakes again into turn 9, and this twiddly little sequence heading towards the hairpin.
Well, certainly a very good job today by Mark Blundell. He started way back in 20th. The Pac West team has won their strategy very, very well in 5th place. Under pressure right behind him is Alex Tagliani. Well, certainly a great job by Mark Blundell, and yeah, he will have to make a pit stop like all the other guys in front of him and behind him, and he will have to take on a fair amount of fuel certainly, but less fuel than some of the other characters as well, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
It is, yes, still up there, still in reasonably good shape, and this is good news for him. He started back on the 10th row of the grid, 20th place for Mark. Oh, and there's been an accident, and that's Breck, and that's Kanaan. Now, these two were dicing earlier on in the race, and Kanaan had got past Tony. Kanaan had got past Kenny Breck, so I don't know quite what's going on here.
No, not quite sure. Certainly Breck was pressuring Tony as they came past the pits, and there was contact, as you say, down in turn 1. Full course caution. Okay, it's down to the pit stops now. Meanwhile, before we just wait for those pit stops to unfold, let me tell you, Juan Montoya clearly is treating this race now as a test session. He's been in and out of the pits 2 or 3 times in the last half dozen laps. But here we go. Here is the race leader, Roberto Moreno, and I'm pretty sure he will be coming in for his final pit stop right now. There he turns into the right, and here he comes into the pit lane. Ooh, it was a slower car, I think, between him and the rest of the field. Luis Garcia.
Garcia's bottled the rest of them up, so that's given Moreno a little bit of an opportunity, and once again the crowd in the grandstands just below our commentary box are standing as they wait to see who wins the battle of the pit stops. An absolutely crucial stop, 11 seconds, that's a great stop, and of course judging how much fuel to put in, if you can run a bit short on fuel, if your driver's capable of it. But down at the end of the pit lane, it's Vasser's crew. He is the last pit, virtually. Well, now he is with Montoya out. Can they? No, Moreno's gone past. Tracy's gone past as well. So, in fact, not such a great stop from the Ganassi team this time in terms of getting him into the lead, because Moreno maintains the lead.
Yes, but a great stop by Paul Tracy. You know, he came in on lap 40 under the when we went caution last time, and great strategy by Team Cool Green. He was only in the pits to take on a minimal amount of fuel, and that was what gained his position. Look at these two. This is Kanaan on the inside, Breck on the outside. Tony, I think I'm going to point the finger at you there. They were side by side going into the corner. Breck did not have the pass completely made, that is true, but Tony Kanaan locked up the brakes there, and he was the one that took out Kenny Breck.
Yeah, well, I think he was so committed by that point that he couldn't really get out of it. He was, they both went in there so quickly that I think they were both heading for trouble pretty much. Neither of them willing to give way on that one, really, and Kanaan was so committed by the time that Kenny turned in, there was no way he could actually get round the corner himself. So, unfortunately, both out. Let's go down to pit lane and hear from Cristian Fittipaldi.
A very scary moment for Cristian Fittipaldi. Cristian, you got away from the fire okay, but your ankle turned when you tried to get out of the car. Is that what happened?
Yeah, it's okay. I just fell down when I tried to get out of the car because there was a lot of fire. But something happened to the engine. The last 2 laps, it wasn't pulling any more power. And then when I was coming on the pit road, I almost didn't manage to make it to my pit box. A shame, but at least we were up there and competitive in the race. We had a bad Friday and Saturday, bad qualifying, but we were competitive in the race. Let's go to the next one.
And what do you think about the leg? Is it feeling better now?
Sorry?
Is your leg feeling better now? Is it starting to come back, the feeling?
No, it is. Definitely, if I had broken it, I wouldn't be able to walk. But I just probably twisted my ankle or something like that. It should heal up in a couple of 1 week or so.
Thanks, Christian.
Thanks.
Somewhat low-key, Cristian Fittipaldi, very disappointed, obviously, after losing his opportunity here. He felt they had a chance, and certainly seeing what went on, you just saw a slight look of astonishment in your face there, Jeremy.
Well, yes, and that is why. It's because Takuya Kurosawa is leading this motor race, and the reason he's leading this motor race is because he came into the pits. I'm sorry, we saw there's the replay again there, and you can see the accident there. It's two guys, as you said, Ben, not willing to give way. But let's go down to the pit lane also. Montoya's test session apparently at an end, and we'll go down to the pit lane.
Yes, we're hoping to hear from him any second.
What was the main thing that was causing you difficulty?
Well, mainly, you know, at the beginning of the engine started to overheat, and you know we lost all the power, and just people started driving by us, and then we had a tire down, and just everything went wrong. You know, one of those is to forget.
Is it tough to regroup?
No, you know, just those things happens, and we just gotta get to the next race and see what happens.
Thanks, Juan.
Okay.
So one not too worried about it. It is one of those situations. And he's been around racing long enough to know that sometimes you have bad days, sometimes you have good days. He had plenty of good days last year, not so good this time. The pace car leads them round slowly on this latest caution period. There are just 25 laps to go. Japanese driver Takuya Kurosawa leads the field. Roberto Moreno is in second place. Paul Tracy in third. Jimmy Vasser in fourth. Then Helio Castroneves in fifth. And the early leader, Gil De Ferran, is down in sixth place. Now we're expecting it to go green this time as they accelerate out of the hairpin. What a situation this is for 37-year-old Japanese driver Takuya Kurosawa, leading a champ car race in his first season in America. He's driven well this afternoon. Now the pressure's on. Has he got enough fuel to make it to the end? And look at this little maneuver going on down here as Helio Castroneves trying to get past Jimmy Vasser.
Yeah, who passed Castroneves coming off the hairpin there. So great move by Vasser. He was able to get past. Look at this now. Tracy looking at the inside there. And Moreno certainly is struggling. And Kurosawa is pulling away. And Moreno is holding off Paul Tracy.
We think that Moreno is without second gear. Yes, look how slow he is out of that. He did not have the acceleration. Tracy then moves up in a second, and now Moreno surely is going to be passed. Oh, Vasser's got lost out. He's been tapped by Gil De Ferran. That was a mess. Helio got past. Jimmy got sort of held up. Look at Blundell. Blundell now trying to find his way past, and that's trying to get past Gil De Ferran. De Ferran's lost a load of places there. Vasser gets past Moreno. I don't know where to look next. They're all passing all over the place, and Moreno is the one in serious trouble. I'm sure it is second gear that he's lost, and he's dropping down the order.
Yeah, and great shame for Moreno, but what a good drive by Mark Blundell there, sticking his nose in there, and De Ferran just held up in the shuffle there, lost a lot of ground.
Brilliant stuff. Now then, let's keep an eye on them as they come across the line. This time it's still Takuya Kurosawa who has led a racing lap now in the champ car race, and that's quite some achievement. Look at that. I mean, Paul Tracy hasn't closed up that quickly to him. Tracy in second place. Look at this little battle. Blundell, Tagliani. Tagliani down the inside of Mark Blundell. Great move there from the Canadian Alexander Tagliani, who won the Atlantic race here last year. But in champ cars, it's a whole different ball game, and he's driving superbly well. Tagliani up into sixth position.
Isn't this great? Brilliant racing, and absolutely the huge crowd here at Long Beach being treated to a sensational motor race here. Absolutely great stuff. Look at Tagliani now. There he goes down the inside of Moreno, and well, Moreno's smart move. He left the room, enough room there for Tagliani to go down the inside, and here now also is Mark Blundell.
Moreno driving sensibly here. He knows he's in trouble, but they are now streaming past. What a shame it is for Moreno. He had this race in the grasp of his hand. He really had it, and now it's just not happening. Let's go down and hear from Max Papis in pit lane.
That continued to develop through the race, or did this happen suddenly?
It happened suddenly. You know, I overtook Oriol. We were on a very good fuel strategy from Bobby and the team Miller. You know, and I went on turn 3, stood on the brake. And instead of getting the brake, you know, was full throttle, the pedal went down, and you know, I was very disappointed because I wanted to get some points. You know, I thought, you know, we could have finished in the top 3 this time.
Thank you, Max.
Another pass going on here, and then we just saw another pass. Michael Andretti wheel banging with Mark Blundell a moment ago. You may have seen it under that interview, and Blundell tried to turn in. Michael Andretti stuck his nose inside, bit of wheel banging, and that showed a bit of Long Beach experience. Michael knew what he could get away with there, I think. He got down the inside, great racing, and Michael Andretti's moved up into 7th position now.
Yeah, and he's charging hard. He wants to get up towards the front of the field. Let's look at it again here. Down the inside, just sides down the inside. Well, it's a manoeuvre that's going to end. There's going to be contact of some sort there. There was contact. Michael was prepared to that. He took the risk. He reckons it was okay. Maybe his front suspension is stronger than the Reynard, he hopes, of the Lola chassis. But he does make that position. But here now, here's Kurosawa under intense pressure from Paul Tracy.
And the stands are getting excited again as there could be a change of the lead. Takuya Kurosawa, what a great drive this is from the Japanese though. He's got Paul Tracy bearing down on him now into turn one. Kurosawa defends the inside line, does he? As they come under braking, Tracy trying to take that inside line away, turning in, and Kurosawa driving well, but he could not quite hold off Tracy, and Tracy made the pass, so Tracy now takes the lead here. Helio Castroneves is in third place, and behind him, Jimmy Vasser in fourth position, and Kurosawa tried to hold him off, Jeremy. Did a great job, but he could not quite manage it.
No, and it also was, what was smart also was the fact that he did see Tracy there. He did leave him enough room, and he still was able to maintain second place ahead of Castroneves. So Paul Tracy, having started 17th, is now in the lead of this race. And he certainly has the race in his pocket now. All he has to do is not make a mistake.
This is incredible. He did the same. You know, he started in 17th place at Homestead. He took the lead of the race in Homestead, only to drop down to third towards the end. There goes Helio Castroneves into second place now. But Tracy's done it again. 17th seems to be lucky spot on the grid for him, because here he is leading this race. A remarkable performance. And I'll tell you what, those boys at Team Green, what an amazing job they have done in the pit stops today. I think he has probably the fastest wheel changers and refuelers in the pit lane at the moment. They won the award at the end of last year, the Craftsman Pit Crew Challenge, and they were fastest at Homestead, and I bet when the times are published they'll be fastest here. Jimmy Vasser, trying to get past Kurosawa in a rather half-hearted attempt, and that could have ended in tears.
Yes, that wasn't the best of moves there from Jimmy Vasser. Almost cost him dearly, but he did maintain the position. And of course, he is now coming under increasing pressure from the other rookie driver, Alex Tagliani. And another brilliant drive by Tagliani. He, of course, won the race here at Long Beach in the Toyota Atlantic Series 1 year ago, so he knows his way around this track. Or at least most of this track. This couple of corners here are a bit new to everybody, of course. But again, another great drive by Tagliani.
So Tracy up front. How many laps have we got to go, you might be asking? We have 20 laps to go. Kurosawa is probably still hoping for another yellow or two to make it through on the amount of fuel he has in that car. So that's an issue to be thought about. He's got Jimmy Vasser right behind him, and then, as you say, Alex Tagliani. Behind him it's Gil De Ferran, and then it's a very racy Michael Andretti. Watch out for Andretti. We've seen how determined he is this afternoon, as this time Jimmy Vasser again tries to line up Kurosawa for the pass into turn one. Kurosawa moves, as he has every right to do, to the inside, then moves back out, and I think this time, yes, Vasser makes it a more positive move this time, and it's Vasser therefore moves into third place. But I think all these front runners might be a little surprised to find just how well Kurosawa is driving in this Dale Coyne racing machine.
Yeah, let me reiterate once again that Kurosawa will be running on a much leaner fuel mixture than these other contenders, because he stopped earlier than everybody else. He's trying to stretch this fuel load to the limit. He's running a lean mixture, gets better fuel consumption. That's what he has to do to get to the end of this race without making another pit stop. So I'm pretty sure he will be running a leaner fuel mixture, and that really hurts you coming off the corners, and that's where most of these guys are able to, look at that, Tagliani able to get the power down, more power onto the straight, and a clean pass at the end of the back straight. Good move by Tagliani, and there goes De Ferran. That's a very brave maneuver, and he pulls it off.
Yeah, that was brave. That was it could have been a dangerous one, that, but he got through. Now Michael Andretti does the same. So now Kurosawa sadly dropping backwards. The man who was runner-up in the GT Championship in Japan last year, former Works Van Diemen driver in the UK, actually some years ago, old Kurosawa. He served his time in single-seaters, and he's done a great job here this afternoon. No matter where he ends up, I think people will have taken note of what a good job he's done while he's been driving with these front runners. Didn't do anything silly, didn't try and challenge them when it wasn't right to, but held his ground when he had every right to. good job from Kurosawa, who now comes under pressure from Oriol Servia, the Indy Lights champion from last year, who's driven well. He's in 8th place.
Well, a bunch of rookies doing a sensational job this weekend. Tagliani we've seen, Kurosawa we've seen, and Servia. We haven't seen too much of Servia perhaps, but again, a great job for PPI Motorsports. That's the Telefonica Toyota Reynard as we're on board here with Mauricio Gugelmin. He's still running in 14th place, 1 lap down, so out of the points for Gugelmin.
Yes, a long way down. We've got 12 cars in the lead lap. Let me tell you, Roberto Moreno, who was dropping back, still going, but he is the last on the lead lap now, and he's down in 12th position. So, well, won't that be sad? I mean, if all he can do is salvage 1 point, I suppose it's something, but he had a race-winning opportunity here today until he lost second gear. And poor Roberto, surely he will have his day, and it surely can't be far away now. He's run up front so consistently in recent races, the end of last year and now at the beginning of this season. Paul Tracy, though, has opened up a 3-second advantage over Helio Castro-Neves. Jimmy Vasser in 3rd place. And what a story this is. Oh, what have we got here? Fontana, I believe that is. Norberto Fontana in the tyre barrier.
Down at turn 1, and that's a shame. Fontana will be doing a nice job there. He was trying to find a way past Oriol Servia. Oh, Takura Kurosawa spun as well.
I think there was contact there between them, don't you, Jeremy?
Yeah, must have been.
They were pretty much together.
Yeah, Kurosawa was just ahead of Servia, and also Fontana and Blundell were very, very close. Here we got a replay here. Look at Fontana coming down the inside there. What the heck's he trying to do? That's a crazy move. You can pass one guy down there, Ben. You can't pass 2.
No, that really wasn't on at all, was it? Kurosawa actually saw him coming and managed to sort of get out of the way, which was pretty alert.
I'm very impressed with him. He really is alert. He's using his mirrors, he's using his head all the way through. A great job by Takura Kurosawa.
But Fontana's just thrown away a good afternoon. I mean, he'd been driving well. We've been talking about him plenty throughout this broadcast, but in one move there, I'm afraid he's undone all the good work that he had done. That was over-ambitious, to say the least. And Fontana taking himself out of the race and dropping Kurosawa down several places as a result of that. So that means we have Tracy leading, Castro-Neves second, and we have a caution period. The yellow flags are out. That will bunch the field up together. It won't make many other differences. We're not expecting any of these front runners to make any pit stops. There won't really be any pit stops now with just 16 laps to go. It'll still be a sprint to the flag. And Tracy, the man with the edge, he's up front. Castro-Neves will line up behind him, Vasser behind him, and it'll be the charge to the checkered flag. Plenty to play for. Just 15 laps remain here in the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, and we have a really fantastic finale lined up because up front it's Paul Tracy driving for Team Green in the Reynard Honda. Second place it's Helio Castro-Neves, not Gil De Ferran, who led the early part of this race, but his Penske teammate also in a Reynard Honda. Third position, the man who won here 4 years ago, Jimmy Vasser, driving on that occasion a Reynard Honda, but now he's out in the Lola Toyota. We've got all sorts of amazing things to look for here. 6 leaders we've had so far, 4 caution periods. Tracy looking for what would be an historic win coming from 17th on the grid. Helio Castro-Neves is looking for that 100th win for Penske, and Jimmy Vasser's looking for the first ever win for Toyota. What else could we be asking for here?
Well, and then we've got Alex Tagliani right behind them in 4th place, and you know Tagliani could have won that debut race of his at Homestead just a few weeks ago. If he hadn't had that stop-and-go penalty for the pit lane infraction, he was definitely in contention to win that race. And I was talking to him on Friday, he was saying he was very chatty actually. He's in a very good mood, he's very, very relaxed, he's very confident, he's really got along well with this Players 4-size team. He's delighted with that car, and he was disappointed with himself for making that mistake, but he really feels that he's ready to win races at this level. It's a big step going up from the Toyota Atlantic cars that have maybe 240, 250 horsepower to the 900 of these things. But he has really taken that step extraordinarily well.
Great karting background. Alex Tagliani has had a lot of experience in kart racing. His father also involved in sort of engine tuning, so he comes from a bit of a motor racing background. Spent a lot of time in California, funnily enough, over the winter months. Did a very serious training schedule down here to get to full fitness for this kind of racing. So he's a man who takes his racing extremely seriously, very committed to it. And as you say, he's doing a great job up there in 4th position.
Yeah, very, very serious young man indeed, is Alex Tagliani. He's moved from his native French Canada to Las Vegas over the winter. There's not much taxes you pay in Las Vegas, that's the reason he moved there. And joining his teammate Patrick Carpentier, Jimmy Vasser, and Paul Tracy also. There's the field summary. You can see we've only got 14 cars running because Garcia is still running. 7 laps down to the leader, but that's it, just the 14 cars still running out of the 25 starters.
But what an amazing comeback this has been from Paul Tracy, from 17th on the grid. You really wouldn't have figured that that could happen on a street track like this. We saw Alex Zanardi drive amazingly from a lap down here a couple of years ago to come through and win it in the dying laps. We thought that was good. Well, it was good. It was very impressive. Paul Tracy, though, a similar sort of performance today from both him and the team. It has to be a combination of both driver and team to achieve this sort of result. A lot of the work is done down there in the pit lane when they've put the tyres on, refueled the cars, and particularly in the calling of when to bring him in. There's a little bit of luck involved, yes, of course there is, but there's also a lot of clever thinking that goes into that.
Yeah, and great driving as well. You have to be careful not to make a mistake on a track like this. Just one slight slip is all it takes between success and defeat. And as of yet, Paul Tracy has been flawless this afternoon. As you say, once again, brilliant pit work by Tony Cotman's team there down in the number 26 Team Cool Green pit. And that is what has put Paul Tracy into the lead of this race. But as you say, we've got a fantastic finale lining up here. It'll be 13 laps to go this time around. Castroneves there, Vasser, Tagliani, De Ferran, Michael Andretti, Blundell, Servia, Herta, and Moreno. Those are the cars on the lead lap. Actually, also back at the pack there is Kurosawa, having come in and made that pit stop. There was no point in not making a pit stop at that stage for Kurosawa. He'd been bundled to the back of the pack by Fontana's very bold, let's say, move in turn 1. So at that stage, there's no point in continuing to run a full lean mixture. Better come into the pits, probably change tyres, put a little bit of fuel in, and see what he can do. Just have some fun towards the end of this race. But he's back now in 11th place. If he can maintain that, at least be a couple of well-earned points by the Japanese rookie.
Yes, that would be well-deserved, as you say. As we're just taking a little look at some of the action that we've been looking at. Kurosawa was the man who really was enjoying himself up front, and then of course coming under attack from the normal leaders, I should say, I suppose, people like Jimmy Vasser finding a way past him. Until this moment of madness, I have to say, a little bit from Norberto Fontana. He got himself past Servia. He did not need to really commit himself to trying to get past Kurosawa as well, and that of course put Kurosawa down the escape road.
For somebody of his level of experience, he's been racing a long time as Fontana. He battled and beat handily Ralf Schumacher to the German Formula 3 Championship in '95. Since then he's done a lot of racing in Formula 3000, Formula Nippon in Japan, where he actually raced against Kurosawa, of course, so they're all buddies. I don't know whether they'll be buddies after this afternoon, though. So I say a lot of experience for Fontana. He's tested for a few F1 teams and did a couple of F1 races a couple of years ago. So that's not the sort of mistake you should be making at this level.
Right, the pace car light is out. We're getting ready for the restart of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. 13 laps ready to go here. Paul Tracy leads the field. We will get the race underway in just a moment. And this is where it's all set to play. Helio Castroneves lying in second place, looking for an opportunity to take that 100th win for Penske.
A couple of years ago here as a rookie, Castroneves had a brilliant run for Bettenhausen Motorsports. He didn't win on that occasion. Can he do it now?
Let's wait and see. Here they come, accelerating out of the hairpin.
Oh, and that's De Ferran. De Ferran lost it coming out of the hairpin and has lost half a dozen positions.
Would you believe it? Gil De Ferran, the man who led early on in this race, well, at least it won't cause a yellow as Paul Tracy leads them down into turn 1. Castroneves didn't... Oh, Tracy was a bit wide there. Took a bit too much speed in, but Helio Castroneves couldn't take advantage of it because he wasn't quite close enough. Castroneves had lost a little bit of ground accelerating down the start-finish straight. They both have Honda power, these two, remember, so they should be pretty evenly matched in terms of engine horsepower, but it's a Toyota in third place behind them.
That's right, fascinating combination of two, as you say, Honda-powered Reynards here in first and second places, two cigarette companies battling it out, and a lot of development has been done on these two cars, particularly by that red and white team, the Marlboro team Penske. And I think those cars, certainly if you look at the qualifying and practice results, it seems to be a little bit more effective than the green cars. But we've got, what, 12 laps to go, and can Castroneves make it past Paul Tracy? That's a pretty tall order. Tracy is never the most easy man to pass, particularly when he's leading a motor race.
That's right, yes, he is an aggressive racer, quite rightly. His last win came on the street track in Houston towards the end of last year. and he would just love to take this one. Of course, remember, he lost the lead at Homestead with some back markers. This is a restart. De Ferran actually got tapped. Well, he got tapped from both ends, actually. He was tapped at the front from Tagliani, effectively, sort of ran into the back of Tagliani, and then Michael Andretti gave him a little nudge just to help him on his way, and that was the reason that Gilles shot across to the inside.
It's fair in love and war, huh?
Absolutely. Well, I think everybody is going for it as hard as possible. Looking at in the top left corner of your screen, Honda Power is powering the cars in first, second, 8th, 9th, and well, let's forget Dario Franchitti, he's out of it. Toyota Power, meanwhile, powering the cars in 3rd and 7th place, Vasser and Serbia. And then if we look at Mercedes, their top representative is Mark Blundell. New Mercedes engine again, of course, this year, as it is a new Ford engine. Tagliani in 4th place, and Andretti in 5th place with Ford Power. Just shows you really how evenly matched they all are.
Absolutely right, Ben. And all the engine manufacturers led in the first race at home, so I don't think a Mercedes has actually led this afternoon, but certainly we've had the other 3 running right up at the front all day long, so a great contest there building up, and it's going to be a really strong season between those 4 engine manufacturers.
Just ignore any alarm.
Listening to some radio traffic there, and Paul Tracy seems to have the pace. He might not have had the pace particularly well in qualifying, Jeremy, but look at how he's managed to pull away just that fraction from Helio Castroneves. Not by very much, but it's enough that Helio hasn't really got an opportunity to think about overtaking. But look at Tagliani. Tagliani is really putting the pressure on Jimmy Vasser. Tagliani's in the blue and white car there, the new name, the Canadian we've been talking about, and he hasn't given up yet. Look, he's still got a chance at the podium here.
Yes, he has, and he'll be certainly give him a sniff of anything, and he will put his foot down and really go for it. Jimmy Vasser, he's a more conservative creature. Can't really see Jimmy trying to pull any banzai moves on Castroneves. Jimmy knows he just needs the points. He had a good run to 4th place in the season opener. Another podium here, that'll be good news. Good way to start the season off for him. Tagliani, though, he's got nothing to lose, really. He is after as many points, as many wins, as many podiums as he can get.
Yes, that's right. So that means that with 10 laps to go, just under 10 laps as they come out of the hairpin this time, that Tracy, Helio Castroneves, Vasser and Tagliani are still all playing for the win here at Long Beach. Accelerating along Shoreline Drive, building up to nearly 190 miles an hour, then hard on the brakes, down to 2nd gear for this tricky left-hander where we've seen so many people take to the escape road. And again, Tracy, the fastest of these front runners on the last lap. 1 minute 11.0 compared to 1 minute 11.4 from Helio Castroneves. So Tracy is able to pull away each lap, and that's what he needs, just to build that little bit of a cushion to protect his lead.
Yeah, it's very interesting indeed. Certainly Tracy is driving extremely well, has done it all day long. He's got 15 wins under his belt. He knows how to win races, obviously. He has been one of the top contenders in this championship now since winning the Indy Lights Championship, dominating the Indy Lights Championship in 1990. He made his debut here at Long Beach, actually for Dale Coyne Racing as it was. He qualified an excellent 14th in a car that really wasn't that competitive in those days. There was certainly much more disparity between the different cars 10 years ago than is the case now. So Tracy, he rented a ride with Dale Coyne for that race. Oh, there's Michael Andretti blown up.
Oh dear, Michael Andretti, who was running in 5th place and has driven aggressively and raced hard all afternoon. It's all over for him. And oh, look at this, look at Jimmy Vasser now attacking Helio Castroneves. Has he got the line side by side? Oh, he can't quite get there. Great dice between these two. And Castroneves really does seem to be struggling a little bit for pace. Jimmy Vasser getting alongside him there in the battle for second, but he could not quite make it pace, so stays back in 3rd position.
Good stuff. Good move there by Jimmy Vasser. And it was Castroneves. He managed to make sure that he had that inside line into the corner. He's able to brake deep enough to ensure that Jimmy Vasser is not able to pass him around the outside.
Well, he's just managed to get away a little bit this time, has Helio Castroneves. We'll have to wait and see whether Jimmy Vasser closes the gap up once more. Just 8 laps, 8 and a bit laps still to go here.
Not sure what happened to Blundell there. I think as Michael Andretti pulled off, he must have held up Mark Blundell, because Serbia, Herta and De Ferran all passed Mark Blundell last time around. So bad news for Mark, goes from 6th to 9th, even as Michael Andretti, who's been running 5th, falls out of the race. So that's a great shame for him.
I shouldn't think Mark will be too pleased about that. He already was hit by Andretti earlier in this race. If he then caused him to lose several more places, I can imagine there being words. Look at Jimmy Vasser, same as last time, trying to go down the outside. Now can he get the car ahead? Oh no, he still can't quite get ahead enough to be able to turn in. And the two of them running side by side. What great racing this is. This is what we want to see. And Helio Castroneves doing absolutely everything to hold on to second position. But what pressure the 1996 champion is putting him under. Oh, we've got a full course yellow. I'm not sure why quite. Let's see what's happened. It might be that Michael's car hasn't made it back to the pit lane. Oh no, we've got an incident, and it's Kurosawa. And this time he's not going to go any further. That right rear is badly damaged. And who's that? Michel Jourdain?
I think it's Jourdain, who was a lap down in 13th place. So that's a shame for those two. Kurosawa was trying to get past. I don't know whether he was trying to get past. It was actually Gujamin who was between them in any case. So not quite sure what happened there.
You listen to the radio. Barry Green is giving directions to Paul Tracy as to how to pick his way between the two cars. And that's sensible because Paul won't have seen anything yet. He comes round blind around the hairpin. You can't see what's around that hairpin. So his team manager just trying to warn him to find a slot. Now the last thing you want to do in a situation like this is stall the engine when you're leading the race and trying to pick your way past some other cars. It's been known in the past.
You can see there the safety truck there on the outside of the corner, Toyota Tundra truck, and here's a replay of what happened here. We'll have a look here and see there is Michel Jourdain Jr. He got it on the curbing there, spun it around, and it was Gujamin right behind who came to a halt. Not quite sure why the right rear suspension broke on Kurosawa's car. It was slightly strange. But you can see there, Michel just clips that inside wall, and I don't know whether maybe Kurosawa did the same thing, perhaps just behind him.
Maybe he did, yes. Maybe there was a yellow. There's Kurosawa. Look, what a shame. He is so disappointed. What a great drive it was from him this afternoon, and fantastic to see. And well, there's not much Japanese inscrutability there, is there? That's much more of a European gloves slapped down on the pit counter there reaction. Great to see, but Kurosawa really made a few fans here today, I think.
Yeah, certainly a great effort by Kurosawa, and he may well actually end up still with a point. Jourdain will go past him. He is running 12th at the moment. Kurosawa still scored in 11th place. Jourdain was another lap behind and did get going again, so he's back underway and just comes past us actually now as I speak. So he goes into 11th place. Kurosawa is still scored in 12th. Michael Andretti, well, he's not going to make up any more places, so he's going to be out of the points in 13th. And Garcia is 7 laps down, and we've got 6 laps remaining. So I think Kurosawa, that's going to be bad news. I think Kurosawa is going to fall 1 lap short because he's now shown 2 laps down and 6 to go. And that will probably just be enough to move Garcia, who's 8 laps down, or 7 laps down, I should say, just past him in the final classification. Wow. So that would be a shame. But still, a great job by Kurosawa.
Yes, definitely. And certainly enjoyed seeing him running up front here today, and deserving it too. He did a fine job indeed. There he is, just walking back down into pit lane. And I think he's going to get a pretty warm reception from the Dale Coyne Racing team this afternoon. Michael Andretti's smoky car, and the end of the day for Michael, former winner here at Long Beach, but once again the luck not with him. It always seems to go wrong for Michael one way or another. Remember a few years ago when that left front tyre blew coming along Shoreline Drive. That was a very scary accident indeed, and something always seems to go wrong for Michael Andretti. It's gone wrong again this time. So Tracy is leading. We've got 5 laps to go. We're hoping to see the green perhaps next time by, and Castroneves in 2nd place. I don't think can really match Paul Tracy unless he can pull off something very spectacular. I would say the main threat is the fact that Vasser could still snatch 2nd place, and don't forget that Tagliani's right in there as well.
Certainly Vasser seems to have better straight line speed for whatever reason than Helio Castroneves, but Alex Tagliani with that Ford Cosworth power plant, I don't know, maybe he's got something up his sleeve there. The greenish car of Oriol Servia, brilliant job by the Spanish rookie driver, up into 5th place now. Again, good strategy by PPI Motorsports, an excellent effort too by Servia, who has passed several cars on the racetrack, so it's not just attrition and strategy that has moved him up into this excellent 5th place.
Yeah, that's good to see, Servia. We haven't seen a great deal of him, but what a great drive he's put in this afternoon. And as you said earlier, Jeremy, the rookies seem to be stealing the show a little bit. I mean, okay, we've got a couple of experienced guys up front, but the rookies have done, not only here at Long Beach, but at Homestead, we saw some superb performances. And once again here, with the likes of Tagliani, Servia, Kurosawa, as we saw today as well, and one or two others. Kenny Breck, of course, went out of this race earlier on, but he's a major threat in terms of race wins, and it's good to see more talent coming into the championship, international talent. They were looking back here at Michael's drama earlier on when his engine caught fire. Of course, that's 2 fires for Newman Haas today. We had one for Christian Fittipaldi in the pits earlier on, and now a second one for Michael.
Expensive day for Newman Haas Racing. Big disappointment there.
Get ready for a green.
So, we're getting ready for the green this time by. We gather that Helio Castroneves, part of the reason that he's not so quick in a straight line, he is conserving fuel. He made a slightly earlier stop than some of the others, and that's part of the reason that he's not quite able to match Paul Tracy, I think. Let's see what happens as they get underway again. The green flag waves, and away they go. Paul Tracy again getting an extremely good getaway and opening up the advantage over Helio Castroneves, who now again comes under serious pressure from Jimmy Vasser. Could this be the chance for Vasser? He's got a wheel ahead this time, but again, oh, and he's got a bit wide. And oh, Tagliani, I thought might have a chance to go through. That's the problem if you commit yourself too much and then can't make it, of course. The guy behind has a great chance to get through. Tagliani wasn't able to take advantage of it, and in fact he's got to watch out because Sevilla's right behind him, ready to do something as well.
This is great stuff. Yeah, look at Sevilla right behind Tagliani. Great stuff. This, you know, the FedEx Championship Series, it's a fantastic series of racing, isn't it? Look at every race we go to, you have no idea who's going to win. We've got these rookie drivers in there, unheralded teams, and they have the capability of running up on the front because all the equipment packages are very, very similar.
I don't know if that was something that fell off there or whether it was just a bit of debris on the track. It's probably at this time in the race probably just something that's been chucked around.
Yeah, or a hot dog wrapper. I think a lot of people here, there's a good 150,000 people probably here at Long Beach, and looking out of our commentary booth here in the grandstands, everybody is on their feet.
They are indeed, because they are watching something pretty special today with Paul Tracy coming from 17th place on the grid. Now look at Vasser. Vasser, the same move, the same place, but can he make it stick? Helio, I think, has got the measure of him on this one now. He knows that he just basically has to wait until Jimmy breaks on the outside of him. And as long as he breaks in much the same place, he's always going to have the inside line and be able to turn in ahead. But perhaps Jimmy, keep trying that move, and then all of a sudden, see if he can surprise him somewhere else around the track.
Yeah, I'm perhaps a little bit surprised that Jimmy doesn't try and just get that run in a slightly different location coming down that front straight. I mean, you've got to get the power down coming off the hairpin, and he's got to really drive around the outside of him through that long sweeping curve in front of the pit lane, but you've got to go a long way around there, and it's a very tall order. I don't know how many marbles there are on the track. It doesn't look too bad. There doesn't seem to be nearly as many marbles, that's bits of rubber that have been thrown off the tyres as usual, because, as we said earlier on, Firestone has brought a harder tyre than usual to this racetrack this weekend. Yeah, that seems to have worked very well, as you say. There are much less marbles, and that's given the opportunity for them to run side by side. Great to see Firestone responding to what people want to see, which is good racing again. Look at Helio Castroneves, takes the inside line. Jimmy looking to see if there's the slightest gap down the inside, but Helio's too canny for that. He doesn't leave any gap for Jimmy Vasser to go down the inside. He just leaves the outside available, but Jimmy cannot quite get ahead enough on the outside to be able to turn in. I wonder if this is going to stay like this till the end, or whether it's going to end in tears. I think both these two will be very aware of the situation they're in, and that scoring points for second and third far more valuable than throwing them all away in a desperate attempt at the end of the race. Yeah, this stage in the season in particular, Ben. And Castroneves, he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders. He certainly is nothing like the experience that Jimmy Vasser has. He's really driving a good race, and he is keeping all the doors firmly closed. Well, yeah. Oh, bit of smoke from the back. He locked up the brakes there, locked up a rear brake, and slid sideways. He held that, no major problem, but a bit of a wake-up call there for Jimmy Vasser. Yes, and he just cannot afford a mistake, otherwise Tagliani's going to steal the final podium slot. The white flag comes out, 1 lap to go. Barry Green on the radio to Paul Tracy, and look at this. This is surely the last opportunity now for Jimmy Vasser. Is he prepared to take the gamble? It's the late braking battle down into turn 1, but no, it doesn't happen. Behind him there was a battle between Sevilla and Herta, and I'm not sure what happened there.
but the two of them came in side by side, and Herta got ahead of Sevilla, looking in the background. So Bryan Herta's moved up into 5th place. Good move from Herta, and he likes that turn one. He took the lead there last year in the first part of the race, and he's managed to move into 5th place here. But the final lap here for Paul Tracy, for Helio Castroneves, and for Jimmy Vasser. These two so close together in the fight for 2nd place, but who's it going to go to?
He thought about making a move down the inside of Jimmy Vasser, but he read there goes the race. He tried to get a run off that corner, and he missed the apex. He missed that apex, and he wasn't able to get the power down. So Castroneves has a clean run down the back straight, and 2nd place it will be for Helio Castroneves.
It looks as though Paul Tracy's going to do it from 17th on the grid. Tracy, who won his first ever race here. Let's listen to the radio as he crosses the line.
Fantastic drive, and the pit crew did a great job too. Just awesome, mate. I'll see you in the pit, victory lane.
And 2nd place for Helio Castroneves, 3rd place for Jimmy Vasser. But what a result for these boys down in the pit lane. They just did such great work on their stops today, and they got Paul up there from 17th place on the grid. And Paul Tracy wins this event for the 2nd time. Helio Castroneves, strong result for Team Penske in 2nd. 3rd place for Jimmy Vasser, taking points for Toyota once again. Toyota still to win their first race, but it's showing once again that they're not far away from doing that. 4th place for the rookie Tagliani. 5th place for series returnee Bryan Herta. 6th for another rookie, Oriol Servia. 7th place for poleman Gil De Ferran. 8th for Mark Blundell, who started back on the 10th row in 20th position. 9th for Roberto Moreno, who survived with that broken 2nd gear. 10th for Guterman. 11th for Michel Jourdain. 12th for Luis Garcia. And there's a story about just about all of those drivers, Jeremy.
Absolutely right. What a great race this was. Paul Tracy, a huge round of applause here from the crowd. Very popular winner apparently, and that's good to see. The Canadian driver, he's one of the bad boys, if you like. Well, there's the Castroneves. Did he run out of fuel perhaps?
I'm not quite sure, and don't quite know what's going on down there. It is out of fuel. So
wow.
He was. They said he was low on fuel for whatever reason. I think he's actually in tears that he managed to actually hold off Jimmy. That was a pressure race. Low on fuel, and yet managing to hold on to 2nd.
Can't imagine why he's low on fuel. He stopped at the same time as everybody else did on lap 54. Clearly, therefore, they didn't put enough fuel in that car. Well, they did put enough fuel in because they got to the finish line. But if they put a bit more fuel in, and it wasn't as if they had to fill the tank up completely when he came in on lap 54, so they could have fudged a gallon or two, or perhaps he just wasn't getting the same fuel consumption as some of these other contenders, even the other Reynard Honda, obviously, of Paul Tracy.
Well, whatever, he's over the moon to finish in 2nd. A very emotional man is Helio Castroneves. A bit of a romantic soul, and I think that Latin blood, he really, really enjoys his motor racing, lives for it. It's a passion for him. He's a real artist of a driver, more than the sort of technical driver. He's a field driver, and he'll be so pleased with that 2nd place finish for Team Penske in only his 2nd outing for them. So great stuff. Jimmy Vasser in 3rd place. That'll be popular with the crowd as well here, the Californian Jimmy Vasser. Something slightly wrong on our standings there on that last caption, so don't worry about that. But Tracy, Castroneves and Vasser, a tremendous podium. Well, it's just a great race. I mean, can't say much more about it, can you?
No, start to finish, brilliant stuff. There was only, 12 cars running at the finish, so less than 50%. A lot of attrition for all sorts of different reasons, but some brilliant racing all the way up and down the field. And there he goes, a blonde Paul Tracy. And it seems to be the day for blondes today, because the Indy Lights race a little earlier this afternoon was won by Kiwi Scott Dixon. But here, Paul Tracy getting the plaudits of the victor.
Let's go down to pit lane.
And we've talked about, we'll turn around so these guys can see you back here. We've talked in the past about how well you've had unexpected victories and significance of wins. Tell us about the significance of this one and going so far in that last set of tires.
Well, it's just huge. The job that Team Cool Green does, you know, Tony Sakali, my whole crew, Barry Green, and I really got to thank Steve Chalice, you know, for the contribution that he's made to our team this year. It's just phenomenal. I mean, we've had 2 races now where we've started in the back, and we haven't panicked. We've got the car sorted out, and we know we've got a good team, and that's what we concentrate on, is how good our team is, and that drives us to go forward.
Starting 17th, was the game plan to get out of cycle with everybody else and look at a 3-stop race right from the beginning?
Starting 17th, the plan was to just stay alive and not get in a wreck, and you know, there was a lot of stuff going on in front of us, a lot of traffic. Me and Michael hooked up. We ran hard for a long time. You know, we worked together. That brought us up the field, and then our strategy just seemed to be right in the end.
Terrific job, even though you almost had a disaster in the pits. A lot of presentations coming up. We'll go quickly to Jan Bikas.
And Alex Tagliani is our top rookie finisher. Tell us today about your ride at the beach.
I mean, we had a good we had a good car, and I'm just very happy for all my guys. They worked really hard all weekend long, and I needed to have a very strong finish here because, you know, I own the one from Homestead, and you know, we had the fastest car I think out there, but it was so hard to pass, and you know, sometimes I push a little bit too hard to get by some of the guys, and I ran out of the brake, ran out of tires. So for, you know, I'm pretty happy with that.
Very nice run, and he also now is 6th in the points. Guys?
Indeed he is, but the points leader, of course, after that 3rd place at Homestead and the win here at Long Beach is this man, Paul Tracy. Heads the points table as they go off to the next race, which takes them to Brazil. Jeremy, a demanding oval at Rio.
Yeah, the Roval there in Rio. 2 long straights, tight corners. Look at Paul Tracy. Great stuff.
A brilliant drive once again from the Canadian. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of the Go Network, go.com.